The KGB never forgive him for confessing. In the eyes of the KGB, he was a disgrace. In the eyes of the West, a traitor. In the dead of night, July 16, 1945, a group of the world's most brilliant minds gathered in the New Mexico desert. They were there to witness the impossible. A man-made star, brighter than 1,000 suns, tore a hole in the darkness. This was the Trinity Test, the birth of the atomic age. For the United States, it was the ultimate weapon. But as the mushroom cloud climbed into the stratosphere, the most valuable secret in human history was already leaking. Because at the heart of the top-secret team that built the bomb, there was a spy. He wasn't just any spy. He was one of the project's most brilliant physicists, a man trusted with the innermost workings of the atomic age. And he was giving it all to Joseph Stalin. And here's the twist. The Soviets didn't just get America's nuclear secrets. They got them from the man who helped build the bomb. In 1949, when the Soviet Union detonated its first atomic bomb years ahead of schedule, the White House was thrown into chaos. America's nuclear monopoly was shattered. The question was, how? The answer wasn't a failure of intelligence, but a betrayal of the highest order. This is the story of Klaus Fuchs, the physicist who changed history. To his colleagues at the Los Alamos laboratory, Klaus Fuchs was a quiet, intensely focused, and incredibly talented theoretical physicist. A German refugee who had fled the horrors of the Nazis, he became a British citizen and pledged his loyalty to the Allied cause. He was a trusted colleague, responsible for key calculations that made the bomb a reality. But underneath the quiet academic, Fuchs was leading a double life. For 9 years, he was a committed communist and an active spy for the Soviet Union, methodically passing on the crown jewels of nuclear science. He didn't ask for money or recognition. His motivation was purely ideological. He was convinced that no single country, especially the capitalist West, should have a monopoly on a weapon so powerful. Was he a traitor who betrayed the nations that gave him refuge? Or was he a man of principle, who thought he was saving the world? The story of Klaus Fuchs isn't simple. It's a story of conviction, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of a brilliant mind chasing a dangerous ideal. To understand the spy, you have to understand the man. Klaus Emil Julius Fuchs was born in Germany in 1911, into a world of political and economic chaos. His father was a Lutheran pastor and a Christian socialist, and the Fuchs household was one of intense political and moral debate. This environment shaped young Klaus, giving him a powerful social conscience and a deep-seated opposition to fascism. As a university student in the early 1930s, Fuchs watched in horror as the Nazi Party rose to power. He saw their brutality firsthand and committed himself to the only political force he believed was strong enough to fight them: communism. In 1932, he joined the German Communist Party. When Hitler became chancellor in 1933, Fuchs was a marked man. He fled Germany, first to Paris, and then to Great Britain. In Britain, he found safety and a chance to continue his studies, earning a PhD in physics under the legendary Max Born. But he never lost the political convictions forged in the fires of Weimar Germany. The fight against fascism was his life's driving force. And in his mind, the greatest ally in that fight wasn't Britain or America, but the Soviet Union. This belief would set him on a path of no return. When World War II began, Fuchs, as a German national, was briefly interned as an enemy alien. But his scientific brilliance was too valuable to ignore. Upon his release in 1941, he was recommended for a top-secret program, the British effort to build an atomic bomb, codenamed Tube Alloys. Fuchs was now inside the most sensitive military project in the Allied world. The German invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941 is what triggered his decision to spy. Fuchs watched as the Soviets bore the brunt of the Nazi war machine, and he became convinced that the Western Allies were deliberately holding back from their Soviet partners. In his view, the atomic bomb was a shared Allied weapon, and the Soviets had a right to know about it. He reached out to a fellow German communist, who put him in touch with Soviet military intelligence, the GRU. His first handler was a woman codenamed Sonia, a Soviet intelligence major named Ursula Burton. They met secretly in the English countryside, where Fuchs passed along his research. In 1942, Fuchs became a British citizen, signing the Official Secrets Act. At the very same time, he was systematically betraying that oath, driven by his own code of ethics. In 1943, Fuchs's value to the Soviets skyrocketed. He was chosen to join the Manhattan Project in America, first at Columbia University, and then at the secret city of Los Alamos. Fuchs was placed at the very heart of the bomb's creation. He worked in the prestigious theoretical division, directly under figures like Hans Bethe. He was responsible for critical calculations on the implosion mechanism, the stunningly complex method used to detonate the plutonium bomb. His mind absorbed everything, and he gave everything away. His American handler was a courier named Harry Gold, who he knew only as Raymond. They'd meet secretly in places like Santa Fe, New Mexico, where Fuchs would hand over documents containing the literal blueprints of the nuclear age, details on uranium enrichment, the complete theory of the plutonium bomb's implosion, the results of the Trinity Test, and even early designs for the hydrogen bomb. This information saved the Soviet nuclear program at least 1 to 2 years of work, allowing them to build their bomb with staggering speed. He was essentially giving Stalin a copy of the American blueprint. Even as Fuchs delivered his final secrets, the net was closing in. For years, a top-secret American counterintelligence unit, the Venona Project, had been painstakingly decrypting coded Soviet communications. Slowly, the codebreakers began to read the unreadable. Deep within the messages, they found references to a high-level spy, codenamed Rest, inside the Manhattan Project. By 1949, the trail of clues, his location, his access, his research, led intelligence to a terrifying conclusion. The mole had to be Klaus Fuchs. MI5, the British Security Service, began investigating. They couldn't use the Venona intercepts in court without revealing their biggest secret to the Soviets, so they needed a confession. An MI5 officer named William Scarden began a series of quiet, patient interviews with Fuchs. For weeks, Fuchs denied everything. But the pressure mounted. His father had taken a university position in Soviet-controlled East Germany, giving MI5 a perfect excuse to question his loyalty. Finally, on January 27, 1950, Fuchs cracked. He calmly confessed to everything. When asked why, he spoke of his controlled schizophrenia, a state where his personal loyalty to his friends coexisted with his loyalty to communist ideology. The confession sent shockwaves across the globe. In March 1950, Klaus Fuchs was tried in London. The trial was shockingly brief. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 14 years in prison, the maximum for passing secrets to an allied nation. Had he been tried in the U.S., he almost certainly would have faced the death penalty. But the real damage was just starting. Fuchs's confession started a chain reaction of arrests. His courier, Harry Gold, was arrested. Gold's testimony led to David Greenglass, a machinist at Los Alamos. And Greenglass's testimony led to his sister and brother-in-law, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who were ultimately executed for espionage. The political fallout was immense. Trust between the U.S. and Britain was shattered. The revelation that the Soviets had stolen the bomb fueled the anti-communist hysteria of the McCarthy era. Most importantly, Fuchs's betrayal had leveled the playing field. The nuclear arms race, the defining terror of the Cold War, was now on in earnest. Fuchs didn't sell the bomb for money. He gave it away because he believed it was the ethical thing to do. Was he right? Or did he doom the world to 50 years of nuclear terror? Klaus Fuchs was one of the most consequential spies in history, but his story is far from the only one. The Cold War was a battle fought in the shadows, where a single secret could be more powerful than an army. To explore more stories of the spies who shaped our world, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So what is his legacy? Hans Bethe, his former boss, once said that Fuchs was the only physicist he knew who truly changed history. To the West, he was a traitor whose actions gave a totalitarian dictator the ultimate weapon. To others, he was a man of misguided conscience, a scientist who believed he was preventing a nuclear monopoly. The truth, as it often is buried somewhere in the gray space between. But one thing is certain. The actions of this one quiet, brilliant man, operating from the conviction that science shouldn't belong to a single power, reshaped the 20th century. He lit the fuse on the nuclear arms race, defined the brutal logic of the Cold War, and left a world forever grappling with the secrets he revealed.